and all Americans of Indian ancestry all across the United States. Happy Indian Independence Day. We share a special bond that I've seen deepen over many years. As U.S. Senator and Vice President, I've watched it deepen. 15 years ago, I was leading the efforts to approve the historic civil nuclear deal with India. I said if the United States and India became closer friends and partners, then the world will be a safer place. If elected president, I'll continue to believe it and continue what I've long called for, including standing with India and confronting the threats it faces in its own region and along its borders. Expanding greater two-way trades that opens markets and grows the middle class in both our countries. Taking on big global challenges together like climate change and global health security. And strengthening our democracies where diversity is our mutual strength and where we have an honest conversation about all issues, as close friends do. As president, I'll also continue to rely on Indian American diaspora that keeps our two nations together, as I have throughout my career. My constituents in Delaware, my staff in the Senate, the Obama-Biden administration, which had more Indian Americans than any other administration in the history of this country, and this campaign with Indian Americans at senior levels, which of course includes the top of the heap, our dear friend who will be the first Indian American vice president in the history of the United States of America, Kamala Harris. We all know she's smart, she's tested, she's prepared. But another thing that makes Kamala so inspiring is her mother's immigrant story to America that started in India with the pure courage that brought her daughters to this moment. I know the pride you feel. It's your story too, for your sacrifices and your family's courage. You become pillars of our community and our country. You're patriots on the front lines of this pandemic. And this reckoning of systemic racism, you're making real promise. The promise that America is a place where people of all races and religions can live together in peace. But I know it's hard. My heart goes out to all those of you who have been the targets in a rise in hate crimes and the crackdown of legal immigration, including the sudden and harmful actions on H-1B visas that for decades have made America stronger and brought our nations closer. But while it sometimes may not feel like the America of your dreams, we will overcome and build back better than ever. And like Barack Obama asked of me, I'm asking Kamala Harris to be the last person in the room to ask the tough questions of me, provide counsel, and most of all, to always represent the belief in possibilities. On this day that celebrates the very idea, let's continue to deepen the bond that endures between our nations and our people. And with that spirit, I'll turn it over to my friend and running mate, Senator Kamala Harris.
To the people of India and to Indian Americans all across the United States, I want to wish you a happy Indian Independence Day. On August 15, 1947, men and women all over India rejoiced in the declaration of the independence of the country of India. Today, on August 15, 2020, I stand before you as the first candidate for Vice President of the United States of South Asian descent. When my mother, Shamala, stepped off the plane in California at 19 years old, she didn't have much in the way of belongings. But she carried with her lessons from back home, including ones she'd learned from her parents, my grandmother, Rajam, and her father, my grandfather, P.V. Gopalan. They taught her that when you see injustice in the world, you have an obligation to do something about it, which is what inspired my mother to march and shout on the streets of Oakland at the height of the Civil Rights Movement, a movement whose leaders, including Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., were themselves inspired by the nonviolent activism of Mahatma Gandhi. And it was during those protests that my mother met my father. And the rest, as they say, is history. Growing up, my mother would take my sister, Maya, and me back to what was then called Madras, because she wanted us to understand where she had come from and where we had ancestry. And of course, she always wanted to instill in us a love of good idli. In Madras, I would go on long walks with my grandfather, who at that point was retired. And we'd take morning walks where I'd hold his hand and he would tell me about the heroes who were responsible for the birth of the world's biggest democracy. And he would explain that it's on us to pick up where they left off. Those lessons are a big reason why I am who I am today. Our community is bound together by so much more than our shared history and culture. The reason there is a kinship between everyone who is a product of the South Asian diaspora, no matter how diverse our backgrounds may be, is because we also share a set of values. Values forged by overcoming colonial past, not only in one nation, but in two. Values like tolerance, pluralism, and diversity. And reflecting on the past 73 years, it's remarkable how much progress people have made in the fight for justice, and we should be proud. But we wouldn't be if we didn't commit ourselves to building an even better future. So I hope you celebrate today, and then tomorrow, I hope you join me in getting to work. Thank you, and happy Independence Day.